Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It's June the 6th today, and we're looking at Nehemiah chapter 5 onward. When the children of Judah came back from Babylon, they had lots of problems. First of all, they had enemies trying to stop them. Then effectively the enemies did stop them, and they had to go back to Babylon and get official permission from the king of Babylon to be able to carry on with the work of rebuilding the city. But the next thing they discovered, to their amazement, was that all the men, when they were away in Babylon, had married foreign wives. So the actual heritage, the ethnic heritage of the children of Israel had been perverted. This is a big deal. In fact, in the epistles of Christ to the churches, or to the synagogue, should I say, of Revelation, one of the big issues is he accuses them of those who say that they are Jews when they're not. So purity of the family line is very important, because it is in the seed that every nation of the earth would be blessed. So this is a very important ethnic issue, and not at all a Christian issue. Christians are made up of every nation and every ethnic group, but Israel isn't. Israel are all direct sons of Abraham, and also direct sons of Jacob. They are the children of Israel. Now in chapter 5 they were faced then with another problem. The problems that Nehemiah faced seem to be almost insurmountable. First of all, there was the great cry of the people and of their wives against their brethren the Jews. And the reason why this happened was because the Jews had suppressed the people. They were taking large sums in terms of interest from the people, and there was a dearth in the land. So there was a drought which had produced a lack of harvest, and the lack of harvest is what we call a dearth. And as a result of that, the whole of the people that in the land had sold themselves as slaves into the bondage of their taskmasters. Now when Nehemiah heard about this, he says, "I was very angry when I heard their cry and these words. Then I consulted with myself." In other words, he went and had a long think, and then he says, "I rebuked the nobles and the rulers and said, 'You exact usury every one of his brother.' And I set a great assembly against them. And I said unto them, We after our ability have redeemed our brethren the Jews, which are sold unto the heathen. Will you now sell them again to your brothers?" And they held their peace. There was nothing to answer. You see, sometimes when the man of God stands up, his mission is to silence the wicked men. And he said, "Look, this is not a good thing. Ought you not to walk in the fear of our God, because of the approach of the heathen our enemies? And I likewise and my brethren and my servants might exact of them money and corn. I pray you, let us leave off this usury. Restore, I pray you, to them, even to this day, their lands, their vineyards, their olive yards, their houses, and also give them 1% back of all the money that they have borrowed." And they said, "We will restore, and we will require nothing of them, and so we will do as you said." And Nehemiah shook his lap, and he said, "This is what God will do from every house and from every labour that performs not this promise. He will be shaken out and emptied." And all the congregation said, "Amen, praise the Lord." So there was declared what we would call today a general jubilee. All inheritances were returned to their original families. All debts were cancelled, and everybody that was in a form of slavery, an economic slavery, was set free. Okay? Now it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I build a wall and that there was no breach left therein, then Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me and said, Let us meet together in one of the villages on the plain of Ono. But they thought to do mischief. And I sent messengers saying, I'm doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should I cease my work and come down to you? He pleads for God to strengthen his hands. He knows that these men are murderers. There were lots of ways in which they tried to wear him down, and he says, And lo, I perceive that God hath not sent him, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. So these wicked men were hiring false prophets, but you see, Nehemiah could see through it. And so he pleads with the Lord, that the Lord would protect him, and that the Lord would strengthen him in the task that he had to do. And it came to pass in chapter 7, it came to pass that when the doors were set up and the porters were set up, that he put rulers over the various departments of the kingdom. He said, and don't let the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. And don't let them be and every night they must be shut, and there must be watches put on the gate. You see, the city was very large, it was very great, and there were not so many people inside, and the houses were not built. And also in this chapter he lists all those that came back from the captivity. So it's a great long list of names, and he numbers all the people that are there. And it says in verse 63, the priests, the children of Habakkuk, and the children of Koz, the children of Barzillai, which took one of the daughters of Barzillai the Gilead to wife, was called after their name. These sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but it was not found. Therefore were they as polluted from the priesthood. And Shalath said unto them that they shall not eat of the most holy things until there stood up a priest with Urim and Thummim. So there needed to be a priest that would come with his Urim and Thummim to discern the mind of God in this matter. And until that could happen, they had to step down from the priesthood. You see, the important thing is that there must be a perfect ethnic heritage. Now in chapter 8, this is a fantastic passage. Let me read some of it. Verse 1, all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the street that was before the water gate, and they spake unto Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord commanded to Israel. And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation, both of men and women, and all that could hear with understanding, until the first day of the 7th month. And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate for the morning, from the morning until midday, before the men and women, that they could understand, and the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law. So this was an educational program of Ezra, but it was more than that. It was a spiritual revival. And Ezra the scribe stood upon a pulpit of wood which they had made for the purpose. Verse 5, and Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, for he was above all the people. And when he opened it, all the people stood up. And Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God. And all the people answered, Amen, Amen, with lifting up of their hands. And they bowed their heads and worshipped the Lord with their faces to the ground. This is a wonderful tradition that perhaps many churches today ought to copy. They stood up in the presence of God and in the presence of the reading of the scriptures. They stood up, and when the scriptures were finished, they all said, Amen, Amen. So let it be. And the Levites caused the people to understand the law, and the people stood in their place. Now verse 8 is my password for today. So they read in the book of the Lord of God distinctly, and gave the sense, and cause them to understand the reading. If there's three things that a preacher of the gospel, a pastor in our churches, an elder in our churches needs to do, it's this. It is to read the scriptures, to read it distinctly, to give the sense, and to cause the people who hear it to understand the reading. Nehemiah proclaimed, he said, "This day is holy unto the Lord your God. You are not to mourn or to weep." Why did he say that? Because when they heard the book of the law, they all poured out their hearts to the Lord in weeping. And he says, stop the weeping, go your way and eat the fat and drink the sweet and send portions unto them who have nothing, because this is a day which is holy unto the Lord. You will not be sorrowful. It's the joy of the Lord is your strength. That's the point. And they went out and they made great mirth because they understood the words that were read unto them. Wow, what an amazing thing. And verse 13, Ezra the scribe, even they gathered together, Ezra the scribe, even to the understanding the words of the law, and they found written in the law which the Lord had commanded Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month. This was the Feast of Tabernacles. And so what they did, they went out and they cut olive branches and pine branches and myrtle branches and palm branches and branches of thick trees, and they made booths, and they all went out of their homes, or they all went out into the street, or they went up onto the roofs of their houses, and they dwelt in booths. Why? Because this was a feast of the Lord. And what I love is the end of verse 17. Let me read 17. All the congregation of them that were come again out of the captivity made booths, and sat under the booths. For since the days of Jeshua the son of Nun, that's Joshua the son of Nun as we know him, unto this day had not the children of Israel done so. And there was very great gladness. There was a very great gladness. Wow, what an amazing experience. You see, the reason why there was gladness, the reason why there was the joy of the Lord upon their souls, was because they were in this covenant relationship with their covenant God, and they'd been put in a right relationship with him. They weren't saved like Christians are saved. They were in a covenant. And they were all circumcised men, both the good and the bad, the righteous and the wicked. They were all in it together. And they fulfilled this obligation to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. And when they did it, their hearts were just filled with the joy of the Lord. There was a very great gladness. What an amazing reading today. I just love the reading of Nehemiah. Well, God bless you. Look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Bye for now.